Hi guys, can you hear me? I'm not using my external mic. Can you hear me or no? Yeah? Awesome. Cool. Um, I'm just not using my external mic. All right, we're gonna do something interesting today. I'm excited. Okay, so to piggyback, wait, let me just make, yeah, okay, we're recording. Cool. So to piggyback off of the session that you guys had with John, hey guys, hi, you guys are all signing on. Um, to piggyback off of that session, I know that he was talking a little bit about top lining, and we gave you guys your first bigger assignment where you're going to be turning in work tapes. Yes, we're all on the same page? Yes, great. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is a big paradigm shifter. We're gonna do some meta like coaching here. That's really, really important. And we're gonna talk about feedback, right? We're going to talk about feedback because that's going to be the next thing that's going to happen, right? You're going to like start sending in things and you're going to get feedback, and we're going to be doing some of that. And then the world is going to do that with you, right? You're going to send things out in the world. So I really, really want us to understand. Hi, I see your comments. Hi, Caroline. Hi, Pat. Hey, guys. So I really want us to understand what makes people successful, okay? And this is a big piece. Okay. So how many of you right now, I'm sure you have a computer in front of you because you're looking at me. But do you have a pen and paper in front of you somewhere? Grab a pen and paper for a second. I'm sure a lot of you have that there. In my house, I'm sure you have the same thing. Like I cannot find a pen. I buy pens and then never know where they are. So I recently just bought this pen, which is really cute. It says positive vibes. It says, "We live like this." Anyway, I like this pen. So I tell my kids, do not take this pen from off my desk. If this pen leaves my desk, I know somebody took it because I don't take this anywhere off my desk. Let's see how long it lasts. It's been 4 days. Okay, I'll probably be gone next week. So I want you to take out a pen and paper. I want to talk about a couple of these really important things here. Okay, so first of all, you're going to just go with me, just like Mr. Miyagi's like paint the fence, wash the cars, and he's like, why do I need to paint the fence and wash the car? I just want to learn karate. Like, yeah, right. But you need all those muscles, right? You know, Mr. Miyagi had a whole method to the madness. All right, so number one, I want you to write down the 3 qualities that you have that you feel like those are parts of you that 3 of the qualities that you love most about yourself that you feel provide the most value to the world, right? Like you could say, I'm empathetic. I'm a good listener. You could say, I'm really punctual. You could say, I'm great with building things. You could say, I don't know actually if that's a quality. Things that would describe you, describing words. Loving, thoughtful, smart, like, right? And then look at that for a second. Just write that down, okay? Okay, now type them when you're done. Type whatever you can type, one of them, 2 of them. Type it into the chat for me. The qualities that you love most about yourself that you feel provide value to the world. I like that one. Imagination, your imagination, persistence, encouraging, caring, smart, good, dad, encourager, empathetic, big heart, kind, intelligent, uplifting, love people, good listener. These are beautiful. Kindness, giving, beautiful. Awesome. Creative, enthusiastic, good listener, patient, good friend. Nice. Okay. Now, how many of you, just by a show of hands, I can see you all, so you could go like this. How many of you, when you were doing that, it was just like super easy? Like you could just like quickly write them down. How many of you felt like you struggled a little bit? Okay, wait, let's do that. So you're like, I can't raise my hand for both. Okay, really easy? Struggled a little bit? Yeah, I think that that's really normal. But I'm trying to show you something here. So when you, I want you to write down a definition. I want you to make it up. Like, have you guys ever played Boulder Dash and people come up with definitions of words and we have to decide who we think is convincing? It's a fun game, actually. So what's the definition? What do you think the definition is of, trying to think if I should give you that word or another word. I mean, let's just start with this. What defines a business? Let's start with that. What defines a business, a successful business? If something is actually on its feet, right? So it's like in business, right? You mean business, right? But I'm talking about like a business that's sustaining, working. What defines that? Profitable, fill a need, successful at solving problem, people built to serve. You guys are drinking the Kool-Aid so good. You definitely understand what I think, and or you're listening to the podcast, or you just get it. That's awesome. Yeah, this is it. I'm so, by the way, in this moment, super impressed and proud to read these answers. So this is just super clear. Okay. So, but now I want to put these two things together. Thank you. Thank you for loving the podcast. Do me a favor, everyone, go buy the book. Buy the book. You will help me more than you think you're helping. It's actually funny, like how many books you need to hit the New York Times bestseller list. It's not a ton, and we're really close. So that's exciting. Anyway, buy the book. It makes a huge difference. Buy it for a friend. It's a great book. It's basically me on steroids because I wrote and rewrote the book for 2 years. In any case, let's put these two things together. So you guys are saying business is solving problems, empathy. What else are you saying? You're saying that in a lot of different ways. Serving, answering a problem, solving problems. Okay. Now here's the thing. A second ago, I asked you to write down qualities about yourself that you value. Okay. Now, not everybody is clear that those things that we hold, that we carry, that we admit wherever we go, that's actually enough, and that's really running the show. But it is. Okay. And so this idea, and this is where I want to go a little bit deeper, and you'll hear what I'm saying. What does it mean in business? Even your particular business, right? We're all in business here. We're in the music business. It's not called the music hobby, right? Donald Passman didn't write a book called How to Make It in the Music Hobby, right? It's a business. Last time I checked, we're in this to make money, right? So we want to be fulfilled and make a living doing what we love, right? And so we want to make money so that we can just do the thing we love all the time. So the money is actually the freedom to feel like we're living life on our terms. So in order to be able to be fulfilled and feel like we're being ourselves, the money is really helpful, right? And here's what we all just talked about, just to make sure we're all getting it. And we just talked about how if we're making money, we're serving somebody else. And really, what do we all want deeply is to serve, because we want meaning and contribution. So the greatest of all is when we get to make a living from it, because that means our work is making a difference for someone else. And money is the result of that, right? So if you're seeing something that's everybody's loving, it means somebody came up with an idea or a product or an experience or a service, and they had other people in mind, and they were able to figure out something. Oh, we got some noise going on. I got to mute some people. So if that's what's going on, then we want this. And I'm trying to keep saying it because a lot of times that we are working through this, some of the stuff gets missed. Like we'll put these things in different places. Like here are the qualities that I admire about myself, but those are kind of in the back of our mind most of the time. And we kind of push that over here. Then we think about a business and we say to ourselves, okay, well, business is about serving. But then over here, everybody I've ever met starts to do their thing and forgets that the things that are the qualities they hold most about themselves, they know are most important, they forget that they have to just make that literally the heart of their business, number one, that that's more important than being impressive or even writing 10 great songs, that that's what's going to open every door, first of all. And second of all, when they come back around to the sale, to the business part, to sending out an email, to pitching, all that stuff, they actually wind up stopping dead in their tracks because they forget that they just said business is about serving. So why would we be upset or nervous or awkward about doing business? We're trying to serve. So we know these things, but we don't necessarily put them together. They don't feel congruent. Here's why. First of all, we can have an assignment where we write out the things that we believe are most valuable about ourselves, but do we really know it? And do we walk into a room knowing that it's enough? Do we know that sending someone a nice email or sitting down with someone or saying hello to someone or however we can even add value to our co-writer, to this class, to each other, to whoever it is, even if we're just sending an email to a music supervisor and we don't have the song right now because we're not going to lead with the sale, we're going to lead with the empathy and the serving, right? We have, in order to do that, we have to know that what we have to offer is already more than enough and that we have what to provide to someone else. It has to all be coming from that place. So what I want you to be super clear of is that business is fueled by empathy, and it takes having the courage, right, to know that you do have something to offer. See, most people, they don't want to even start building relationships with people, which, by the way, that's where all momentum in business comes from, because they don't think they have anything to offer. But you just told me that you're creative, you have a big imagination, you're empathetic, you're a good listener. That's a lot. That's great. Really get that. Really, really, really get that. Okay, so this is what's behind every great story, every epic story that I tell on my show. Like Howard Schultz, for instance. Okay, the kid grew up in public housing. Public housing. He grew up like they were actually given food by Jewish Family Services because they had no money. He was poor. He was considered like a poor kid on welfare. He now makes $3.5 billion a year in his sleep, because he owns Starbucks and created Starbucks out of nothing. It's an amazing story. That started two things. He was working at another company that made coffee grinds, coffee beans, okay? They were actually called Starbucks, but Starbucks, it was a little shop that just made coffee beans. They didn't sell coffee. They didn't make the Frappuccino. And he raised his hand and said, I have an idea. And they actually said, that's a dumb idea. Like, no one's gonna make a stop just to get a coffee drink. But we can make coffee beans that we could sell to offices. And that's where the world was in the early 80s. Nobody was stopping in for coffee, just coffee. If it was coffee, it was going to be bacon, eggs, and all of the rest. And he had the courage to trust that maybe he had something to offer. And then, of course, he went and built it. And then he bought that little coffee grind shop that was just making the coffee beans. And he built it into the first store that sold you the Frappuccino. And then he made 35,000 of those stores. But the whole way that it all came was from, he first had this idea. And see, it starts with like in a meeting or in a room with a co-writer, with a collaborator, anywhere you are you willing to know that like your enthusiasm and your love of another person and your desire, by the way, at the time, he was trying to help them grow. He had this idea that maybe that would help the company expand, because they were just competing with all these other people that were distributing coffee beans to offices. And they had these like big orders. That's how they lived. They would try to get a big order from a company to buy a bunch of coffee canisters. Okay. In any case, it also came because he had never been out of the country, and he went to Italy, and he was walking around and he saw people meeting up on the corner and talking to each other for hours in these espresso bars. And he said, we don't have that in America. He said, in America, people go to work and then they go home, but there's no third place. There's no place where people go just to talk to each other. There's no place to gather. There's no place to connect. There's no place just to talk. And he said his whole life, he always felt like so isolated, and he felt like people needed that. And his dream was that maybe they could create this first place like that in America, which would be like a third place where you go just to talk. It's not about breakfast. It's not about lunch. You're just there to talk to your friends. So you get a coffee, but you're there to talk. You're there to meet up. You're there to just be together, which is cool, right? Because people do that at a bar. But he thought that's not really the same kind of connecting. And maybe we could have that be for everybody, right? Middle of the day time. It doesn't have to be nighttime bar stuff. It could be like all the time. And that's what he saw happening in Europe. And so he wanted that for people so badly. And he thought it would just be so sweet to have that on the corner. Now he thought that was just going to be one little shop in Seattle on the corner. And then he just kept dreaming. And the reason I know that he's worth his salt is because A, I met him personally and he's very sweet, but B, he's married to the same woman for 48 years. And when you have $3 billion, it's a pretty big test, right? Maybe you don't stay married to the same person. Probably could marry whoever you want. They have a really good marriage. I got to know her too. But every single person I've had on my show, it's the same story. To have the chutzpah, to have the moxie to make that cold call, you have to know that you actually have something to offer. And you will only know that if you're coming from a place of really, actually, truly wanting to serve. They can't be separated, right? They have to go together. So I told you a little bit about this last week, but I interviewed Brian Grazer recently, who's Ron Howard's partner, who they did Apollo 13 and A Beautiful Mind and every other movie for the last 30 years. But what he did is he started his career just sitting down with people and having conversations. He was 23 years old, and he would sit down with people and just be like, hey, I'm Brian Grazer. And he would reach out to Warren Beatty, and he reached out to Ron Howard. He was just like a kid. And I said to him, that's so cool that you had the courage to reach out. And he said, well, I knew. He said, my grandfather told me once that everybody wants to feel important. And so he goes, I knew that we're all equal in the eyes of God, and I can make someone feel important. And I have that ability. And he said, and I'm truly curious. So I knew that if I sat down with somebody, I would really want to hear what they felt made their life interesting or what they felt made them successful. And I would really listen. And that's valuable. Do you get that that's valuable? It's really valuable. It's kind of all there is. So the reason I'm relating this to feedback is because what happens for most people in general is that we take rejection really hard and we get out of the game. And if you really sort of like circle back and sort of try to uncover what it is that like, you know, sort of derails people from being successful, it's when the feedback starts to come in. You know, like Bill Burr, who's one of my favorite comics, he says, it's been like a 28-year climb for him, like a slow climb, you know, to get to where he is. Now he plays like Madison Square Garden. But he was a comic for a long time. He said, and you know what? I saw a lot of comics. They took one hit to the jaw, they're out. They're done. And his line is really funny. He says, I've seen enough Toyota Camrys to know most people give up on their dream, right? Which is funny. There's nothing wrong with a Camry, but his point is like no one's dreaming of that, right? But a lot of people play it small, right? But I'm trying to show you something different, okay? When you get the hit to the jaw and someone says, no, I don't like that, or whatever. So the rejection is an answer key. It's a gift because you're built to serve. So do you think, I mean, if you picked any company, anybody, whether it's Apple or Skippy peanut butter, what are they doing all day long? They're sitting with their audience in focus groups, right? They're testing things, having conversations, asking them what colors they like, what flavors they like, what shoes they wear, right? It's like they want to know why, just because they're like crazy big brother, big data people? No, they want to be able to make the thing you want, right? So they're not upset when you say you don't like this flavor or you don't like this feature on the watch, you want a different feature. They're like, thank you so much. Bring it on. Tell me how to serve you. So why is there always a new iPhone? Because they're constantly running thousands of people through these focus groups and saying, what could be better? What's not working? What do you want more of? Cool. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. It's all beta. There's no arriving. There's only a striving to serve. You get that? So we can't move forward, right? At this point, so we've listened to songs, we've talked about the industry, we've talked about some fundamentals, right? You're learning to listen, you're learning to appreciate all of these big pieces. And now you're going to start to, you know, put the rubber to the road and you're going to start to put things out in the world. And you need to be on a mission to get the answers, to serve. That's it. Like if you boil down my career, you read through these articles, like there's a few articles about me out in the world. The money comes from a deep desire and a willingness to say, I have a client, I have a person who's going to pay me money to get to be myself. That is a huge gift. And I am going to serve their vision. I'm going to help them tell their story. I get to use my talent to tell their story. And I really want to know what they want and what they need. And I'm going to find a way to really be a grown-up about that and to master my craft, right? And the thing is, you guys, I have to say, the world is very merciful. It leads you to your most authentic self. So the more I sought to serve, the feedback that came was constantly leading back to the most authentic sound I could make with my music. It really was. It led me back to being the best version of myself. I didn't wind up writing songs I hate. I didn't wind up writing songs that I wouldn't play for you. I actually wound up finding more. It was like a constant, like, Cathy, I think you should do more of that. That sounds really good. And that's where we would think of you. So just go more deep, commit to that. Do that bigger, more, brighter, add this. And they know, because they're listening to music constantly and they know what they want. Sometimes they think they don't know. They'll be like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain it. And then they'll give you 4 or 5 reference tracks of songs that you would really respect. And they know, like, just like a casting director, she knows, like, you'll be like, Rachel and Monica's characters, Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox, came in to read the other part. You know that story, right? And the casting director was like, no, it's the other way around. It's not a fit. You're not supposed to be Rachel. You're supposed to switch it. People are really good at their jobs. Okay. People have a deep fear that they are going to be invisible. And so what they do is they make themselves invisible. We're so afraid that they're not going to get us and we're going to become a sellout. So we don't want their feedback because we're going to lose our musicality. I'm telling you, you'll meet some of them. Those of you who stick with us, you come to like a live event. They're so legit. Like these human beings, like the music people in the industry, these kind of music people, I don't know so much. I mean, the label people are a little bit different because they're motivated by slightly different things. They get big bonuses and perks when they sign artists. And they're also they're in a different space. It's a different business model. Selling an album is basically like creating a whole character. Like you come up with, her name is Billie Eilish. She wears this. She looks like this. It's like they come up with it's like a superhero. Like what's her sword going to look like? What's her costume going to be? It's a whole thing. And then they kind of project that out in the world. It's like making Mickey Mouse. It's like a whole enterprise, right? When they're creating music for a TV show, for a film, for an ad, the people who work there, first of all, they don't get a bonus because your song does really well and people appreciate it. They get a salary. They're a salary employee. And so they are more objective and they can speak more objectively because nothing's going to be different, right? Doesn't matter if they get Lady Gaga or they get you. They're being paid the same. So they're actually just working towards the creative, just really trying to be creatively aligned. So if this is the creative, they're going to help you by saying, well, this is what I really hear that's working. You should listen to that. And they're mostly, I actually don't know many of them that I don't like. So they're true music fans. They're in it for the right reasons. They don't really get paid that much money. And what's nice about it is they really care about indie artists, which I think is awesome because they should get a lot more credit because they're the reason a lot of people get found by labels eventually. In any case, so I don't want you to be so precious and worried that you're going to get lost. You're not going to get lost, okay? And I want to go back to where we started, right? The first question I asked you is, what are the qualities about you that you value the most, that you think make a difference in the world? And you said beautiful things. And then we said, what is business about? And we talked about how business is about serving. But then we talked about how we're going to start to begin to get feedback, okay? And I know so many artists because I live in LA and I grew up going to art school and I'm just always around artsy people. And I know how hard it is for artists to get caught in this trap of, oh God, I don't really want feedback, or I'm going to take it so strongly, or I'll not. Basically, I want you to hear me. If you are already feeling like getting feedback might break your soul. So I just want to go back to what we're doing this for, right? We're built to serve and we have to solve a problem. Or we can not be in business, which is fine. And we can go just write our own songs. And that's also fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And some people really prefer to do that. I know people who have law jobs and they paint in their basement on the weekends and they're much more happy that way. But then I know people who are like, no, I want to figure this out, but that's going to require radical empathy. So that's a decision you have to make. Like, are you willing to care about the people who are going to give you money for their projects? And are you willing to really care? And when we really care, it means before we've even pitched them anything, we remember that what we have to offer is really valuable, and we seek to offer whatever value we can, right? First, before we ask for anything, which means sending cool kinds of like personable, sweet emails that have energy, that don't feel businessy, that just feel kind and sweet. And we're just continuing to pop in their inbox with these like sweet, kind things, and maybe a specific question that starts to get that friendship, that banter just a little. It pulls a tiny little thread out of the sweater so we can try to like just kind of pull something there and maybe create something. And that's going to come from empathy, curiosity, right? Enthusiasm. Those are the things. You really want to start to harness that in yourself. They say that when it comes to grit, you guys have all read or heard the TED Talk on grit by Angela Duckworth. So grit is it, right? It comes down to like, at the end of the day, the people who are successful are people who stay in it. But what is correlated with grit? Optimism. Because in order to stay in it, you have to be optimistic. Now, that is actually something that we can control. So we have to turn up the optimism, right? And that will allow us to stay in it. And what's going to make that possible is when you're like, it's okay. I want the feedback because I really do want to serve. But if you're just saying that and you really don't mean that, I know artists who are like, I would love to make money. I'd love to make 6 and 7 figures doing the thing that I love. But secretly they're like, but it's got to be the song I wrote and the way I wrote it. I'm not willing to do anything else. That's not good business. It won't work. It doesn't last. I'm telling you, I sat in Sunset Sounds with Lady Gaga when she was recording Paparazzi. She made every single change that Ron Fair called out. And he did it like this. No, go back. Less strings. Sing that again. No, do that differently. Back it up. You guys have to, okay, let me have this quiet. Okay, now you, like, it was literally like this for like 3 hours. He's just like quarterbacking the whole thing. And his engineer, Tal Hertzberg, was there, who actually passed away like a year later. And I watched her run back over like 15 times. And he was like, you should change this part. This isn't working. You know, like, why is it that the people who are giants in this world, they have tons of feedback, they have tons of input, and we're like, hell no, I'm not getting in. So they need it, but we don't, right? Or they're willing. Why is their music getting to be where it is? Because tons of people are getting on board with the mission, with the sound, right? They know there's an audience for it because they know that there's going to be people who want that same peanut butter, want that same song. That's all driven toward empathy. Because there's songs that are not going to make it on the album because maybe the artist loves it and the label goes, they're not going to want it. Keep that for yourself, right? Those people are going to want the song they can sing along to, right? There's certain tracks that work for the radio and certain tracks that don't. You know, that's fine. That could be the song that they play at the concert at the end. Like, I want to play you this B-side. It's all empathy though, right? Give the people what they want, right? At the end of the day, give the people what they want. Let them eat cake, right? So we have to be in the business of empathy. And what's really cool, you guys, is this is why when people say, what are your goals, Kath? Like, write them down. What are your goals? I'm like, I don't do that. Because what I try to do every day is have like a live electricity where I'm literally just in the flow. I am putting out every possible next thing I think I could do to add value. And then I'm looking for what the next thing is. So oftentimes, if I'm in a business meeting, I don't go in with the answer of like, here's my agenda of what I want you to get on board with. I go in there as a person with a lot of beginner's mind, and I hang out with this other person. I ask them a lot of questions, what they want. And then I sit there and go, cool, I wonder if I could help you with that. And here's what I'm thinking based now on what you're saying. And sometimes I'm like, God, I didn't even mention the thing that I came in there for because it's not relevant. Because you miss so much. We're so short-sighted. It's like, can you imagine? Think about it this way. Can you imagine you're pitching this song. You want people to get this song, right? instead of making the relationship, showing up with enthusiasm, positivity, optimism. I can help you. I have the courage to believe that I know I have something to offer. Let's connect. Tell me more about you. What do you need? And then they wind up telling you they need a song about blah, blah, blah. And you think to yourself, I'm so glad I asked, because if I would have just pitched this, I never would have heard that. And I'd be so happy to write that and be a part of that project, right? And so I want to be in it for how I can serve. And I know that, I mean, this might sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but this is where it all falls apart for people. I know people who are like, I want to be an actor, but they only want to do the role they want to do, or they only want to do it in the thing that they wrote. It's really hard to ask the world to get on board and just support you when you are like, there's just total blinders up to like, what's the story the world wants me to tell? Where am I being led? Like, what am I supposed to do with all of this? Right? Does that make sense? My sister just went to see Sarah Bareilles last week at Madison Square Garden. She has a new tour. And my sister told me that she told the audience that doing Waitress on Broadway was the most fulfilling creative experience she ever had. And you guys, I don't know, how many of you have seen it? Raise your hand if you've seen it. It's an incredible play. But it's not her life story. It's not anything close. Like, she wasn't married to an abusive guy and then wound up having a baby. She's single, she's not married, she doesn't have kids. She wrote the most incredible music about a woman who is going through an abusive relationship, who breaks free and has a child. And it's amazing. And as a mother, I can tell you that song, Everything Changes, that she wrote when that baby is born, it's as if she crawled right into my heart, how I felt at the birth of my 3 kids. Well, she doesn't have any kids. So should she not have decided to add her light and her artistic depth to that show because it's not her story and it's selling out because she can't relate to it and she's telling someone else's story? That's ridiculous, right? Instead, they said to her, no, we want you because you have such a gift and we'd love to have your talent and your color of the rainbow, your frequency, somehow shine through this story and help tell this story. And I would tell you that that's probably what John Williams and Randy Newman and Danny Elfman and every other person that, I mean, we can go from music, we can go into the art realm. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it, right? We talk all the time about Michelangelo and how he definitely was commissioned to paint that chapel, right? He was told exactly what to paint. And they told him, but we want you to paint it and you to tell the story. But this is the story we want you to tell. But we want you to be the one to do it, right? And I don't know about you, but we all know, like, as soon as you hear a song, you're like, it's Elton John, it's Billy Joel, I know I said them because they did that tour together, but like whoever the artist is, like, you know right away who it is. Right? It's sort of like in the magazine, Who Wore It Best? And you see like Gwen Stefani wear something and then you see someone else wear the same outfit, but it's different, right? It doesn't matter if, someone's asking them to write the song for The Lion King or write the song for a movie or whatever it is. Their signature is all over it. It's them. They're not worried. That's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, the further up you go with people who are successful, they're getting lots of feedback. And they're constantly weaving in the feedback of their audience, of their team, of the people around them who are assessing data and constantly working toward what is it that the people want, right? They're constantly allowing that in, and yet they're honing their signature talent. It's all working at the same time. Okay? So empathy is really huge. And so you're going to get feedback, and I want you to look at it like an answer key. I'll give you one last example. So a friend of mine, he's a director animator at Pixar, and he worked really hard to get there. But when he was in art school, he was constantly trying to get this Disney internship because Disney hires from their internship, and it's really hard to get the internship as an animator. And that's how he started. And he was on my podcast. It's a great story. His name is Saul Blinkoff. He was on my podcast. We talked about how he got to Disney. But anyway, he talked about how in art school, he just kept getting so frustrated because he was in his first year, second year, and a lot of his friends, one by one, the really good ones, were getting the internship and he wasn't. And so in year 3, he called up Disney. He had the, like, you know, the courage to do that. And he got on the phone with the person who chooses the interns. And he says, I feel so embarrassed. I don't know if you remember me. I've sent in a portfolio every single year. I was like the best in my high school. Now I'm in this college program. I don't understand why I'm not getting selected. Can you look at my portfolio and tell me what I'm doing wrong? And the guy looks at his portfolio and he says, hang on. And he goes, let me look it up. And he grabs it. He comes back to the phone. And he says, okay, so for the last 3 years, you're sending in drawings of Mickey Mouse. And he's like, right. And he goes, well, we don't want a single drawing of Mickey Mouse, not one. I don't want to see you draw Mickey Mouse. He goes, I don't get it. He goes, why would I want to know that you can draw Mickey Mouse? Like, that's not going to be your job. I'm going to give you all kinds of things to animate. Like right now we're working on this movie called Pocahontas and Mulan and whatever else. Like, there's no Mickey Mouse. I don't need to know that you can draw Mickey hands and Mickey ears. Like, that's not going to work for me. He goes, so what do you need? He's like, I need you to be I need you to draw figure drawing. Like, I need hands and toes and I need angles, like a chin from this side and a kneecap from underneath. I need all angles of figure drawing. That's what I need. And he said to him, thank you so much. And he says, and then he said to me, he said, Cathy, that was the best day ever because it was the answer key. It was like, just give me the answer key. Like, I will do anything to work hard to do this. What's on the answer key? So he's like, he goes, literally in 2 weeks, I threw away my whole portfolio, every piece of it, didn't keep any of it because it was Mickey Mouse, literally Mickey on the phone, Mickey running, Mickey jogging, Mickey on a bicycle. Like, it was all Mickey. They don't even want Mickey. They don't want one picture of Mickey, nothing, Mickey, zero, nothing. They'd like you to forget that you could draw Mickey, okay? So he goes, in 2 weeks, I went into the studio, I hired different models and I would stand on a stool and like draw her from above. Then I would hire another person and I would like get underneath the desk and like draw the hand, draw the shoulder. He said in 2 weeks, I had 40 pages of a portfolio. 2 weeks, like this, right? And he goes, I sent it in and then I waited. And he goes, and in those days we didn't have call waiting. He goes, so I'd be on the phone with my mom and I'd be like, I gotta get off the phone. I'm hoping that they're gonna call me. He's like, I was like literally pacing, waiting for them to call. And he goes, and then finally he goes, I got a call from a friend of mine, his friend who had gotten the internship 6 months earlier. And he calls and he's like, how you doing? He's like, well, I'm in Ohio. I'm not good. He was at the Columbus School of Art and Design. He's like, I'm not good. He's like, and you're great. You're in Orlando. So like, don't rub it in. And he goes, yeah. He goes, you know what they just did? He goes, they just built a basketball court for the interns and they're taking us to this premiere and they told us that like 6 of us are going to get hired on as staff animators. And he goes, well, thanks a lot. Thanks for calling to tell me that. And he goes, yeah. And there's a chair next to me and they just put your name on it. And he goes, and they told me I could call you to tell you got the internship. And he started to cry. And he goes, I turned on Circle of Life and I was blasting it in my dorm room. Like, it's the circle. He's like, a tear streaming down my face. And the rest is history. And he wound up making his way as a director now at Pixar, right? And he said, it's that answer key. He's like, but he goes, I'll have moments with people who are aspiring animators and I'll sit down and try to give them feedback. And I see the light drops out of their eyes and I know they're out of the game because they're so afraid, oh no, I just rejected them. So you hear the point, right? And that takes so much courage, right? It takes so much courage to be able to hear the feedback. Like, imagine his life, the different direction if he would have said, he hated my portfolio. He hates Mickey Mouse, right? And he doesn't get it and never gonna get it. And instead he was like, what do you want? And he had the courage to call also to ask the question, what do you want? And he goes, my whole life ever since has been asking that question. But he gets to do so much, right? Like, he gets to direct and he gets to choose the voices. And he worked with David Spade and Eartha Kitt on this last movie and a couple movies ago, and he had so much fun working with them. So it's like, we gotta seek the feedback. So do you kind of see the method and the madness of everything I'm saying? You have what to offer, right? It's already enough. you're in a business to serve other people. You're going to start to get feedback. And I want you ahead of time to be going in with ears wide open. Okay. Now, of course, there's the other side of this where like, there's going to be people in your life who say like, oh, you're awful. You have nothing, you know. There's a difference, right? There's a difference. And one thing to keep in mind is like, you know, I do a podcast, right? So I think we have over 3,000 5-star reviews, which is pretty impressive. And I'm pretty proud of that. That's awesome. Every once in a while, we'll get someone who hates the show. But here's the thing. Instead of being grumpy about it, I actually try to read those reviews, because if there's ever 3 people who say the same thing, I try to make a change in the show, because I do feel like I should listen, I should care, and I want to grow and I want to make it better. So I kind of feel like it's a gift. Like I like to read those things because of course there's the people who are just rude to you and trolling you. But then if 3 people in one way or another are kind of saying the same thing, it's a good note to take in and it helps me be better. So I like it. So you kind of have to know how to like look for, I guess, consistency in feedback, right? Like if you keep hearing from feedback, you know, oh, I think your song should be faster, or maybe you want to work on the lyrics, they're a little on the nose, and you hear them a few times, you could be like, good, I'm going to actually like step up and take accountability and grow and master this. And part of it, like we started with, part of it comes from this idea of not having shame, right? Because if rejection, like every time you hear feedback, it's just a big rejection. What that really means is like, you're just so hard on yourself. You don't give yourself the grace to be like, of course, I'm not expecting myself to have it all right now. So like, I should be up for feedback, and I'm going to give myself the runway to create lots of stuff until it becomes a masterpiece. And that's okay. Because isn't that what everybody I've ever looked up to who's done anything great? Isn't that what they do, right? They give themselves that time and space. My friend Greg owns a bakery. He said, it wasn't until I made the 10,000th croissant that I even felt like I knew how to make a croissant at all, right? So, and I was like, how could that be? He's like, no, really, like there's a whole art to it. You know, like it takes time to get it. And I think that we have to just be willing, right? So what are you, I want to know in terms of feedback, and this is my 2 cents. What are you feeling right now? Does anyone want to share? Because John said to me, you know, Kath, they're going to get assignments and we want to like, I really want to prepare you to be super successful. And so I'm trying to set a whole like sort of path ahead of you to serve, right? And that feedback is your answer key. I want you to see it as a gift. And if you're really built to serve, I want to really keep getting you clear that that's a good thing, right? And that you're going to be able to tell other people's stories by helping, you know, you're going to be able to help tell stories, right? That's what we're here to do. And help make people feel things and all of that stuff. But I want to hear from you how you're feeling about all of this. How do you feel about what I'm saying about feedback, about putting your work into the world? And you could be honest, you could be brave and say it's scary, or I don't think anyone really likes to get constructive feedback. And this is why I'm having a whole conversation about, because I don't think we're taught, A, that we should be messy. You don't have to be perfect right away. I don't think we're taught to look at feedback as a gift. And I don't think most people are living mediocre lives. Most people don't know what it means to be really successful, which means it's about serving. It's about knowing the answers that that's why I want to keep bringing it down to earth for you. Everyone from my friend who's an illustrator to people who make peanut butter. They're built to serve, right? They're going to keep asking you questions. And I think you need to remember that everybody in business is building a business this way, through empathy, through feedback, right? And looking at it like a gift, so that then, oh, good, I'm glad you didn't like that flavor. Thank you for telling me. I will make the flavor that you like. Okay, so let me read some of what you're saying. Hang on. Yeah, so Autumn, that's a good question. She said, how do you know when you should take their advice and change it? Or maybe you don't have the same artistic vision. So that's where I think it's a little bit of like majority rules. That's what I was saying about like, if one person just like comes in and says, "Oh, I hate Cathy's interviews because she talks too much or whatever," I might be like, let me keep that and like see, right? And then if a few other people are like, "I wish she wouldn't interrupt so much. I just want to hear from the guest," I might be like, well, it hurts a little, but like, cool. Like when I do an episode with a guest, maybe I should keep that in mind. Maybe if it's happening more than one time, I would say. Um, and also, I would not be so precious right now about my artistic vision, really, because I want to be able, like when I think about building someone else's dream and clocking in at a job I hate versus being paid to be in a studio and make music, it sounds fun. It sounds much more fun. So for me, at the end of the day, I would rather than like support their artistic vision, right? Because maybe I'll learn something from it. Maybe I'll grow from the experience, and maybe then I'll get paid. And if I get a few jobs like that, right, I could stop this day job that I hate, and then I can continue to do more of my artistic vision. And sometimes, I mean, we had this potter, I think I told you about, or if I haven't, it's a great episode, but this guy named Brian Januski was on my show. He makes about $1 million a year as doing pottery. And he has a company called Drippy Pots. And when he was starting out, he was making this like avant-garde ceramic art. And the only people who liked it were people who wrote in art journals. And he was so proud that people thought he was an artiste. And he had this vision. He would make these like big sculptures, but he was completely starving. And he was like, I guess I'm going to have to get a job in insurance with my dad. This sucks. Like, I can't make money. And I'm such an artiste. And people love my vision. And I make these big ceramic sculptures. And then one day there was a woman, and she was putting together this like little art fair. And she said, do you remember those little pots you made that have those pastel color tones? And they were like speckled. They looked like they could be for ice cream or like small little plants you pot. He's like, yeah. She goes, could you make like 6 of those? And he's like, no, those are dumb. Those are pastel colored stupid pots. I'm not making those. And she said, oh, well, they were so pretty. And I would actually buy 10 of them from you. I'll put them in the show. And so he was starving. Like he was literally living on ramen noodles. So he's like, fine, I'll make you 10 of those. And then she put him out of the show, and she called back and she's like, people want to buy those. Like, can you make more of those? And he's like, this is the dumbest thing. They're like these little sweet looking, happy little pots, pink, purple, blue, like Easter egg color little things. And she had an order. So he was like, I'll make it. And he said to me, his biggest breakthrough was like, make the people what they want. Like, people want to buy your work. Stop starving and just make this thing. So he started to make it and have fun with it. And he started to get orders. And then he got an order from a little boutique in Portland. And then he got another order from a little boutique in Athens, Georgia. And all these like cool little boutiques were buying his work. And he would go visit them. He'd come to stock their shelf, and he'd be like, these people are cool. And they like it. They really like what I'm doing. I just never thought I'd be making something for a consumer. I thought I was an artist. Like, I wanted to be like cool and interesting and depressing and whatever else. And then he got a tiny little email from a tiny little company called Urban Outfitters. And they were like, dude, so we want to give you like 60 grand in an order. We need it in 3 weeks. And he was like, I think I'm done being an artiste because I'm going to go eat because food sounds great. So he made all this stuff for Urban Outfitters, which led to Pottery Barn, which led to Crate and Barrel, which led to $1 million business. And he makes all kinds of things now. But he definitely makes those drippy pots, and he makes all different kinds of them. And guess what? He said it taught me I like making stuff that people like. And he goes, it's actually much more fun instead of making these pieces that they're so interesting, but nobody knows what they are. But the art journals really love it, but people can't stand it. He's like, I didn't want to make art that nobody got. I like that people eat off these plates. And he makes a lot of money, and he's really happy. And he got to employ about 50 people, 50 artists in Philadelphia, and build a beautiful studio. And they give tons of money to charity. And he's very happy. And he got married, and he's good, right? So I love that story. I love that story. And really, that's just called being a person who has empathy. Like, you could stick to your guns and make something that three people like, or you could find a way to make something that you make that everybody goes, I love that, right? I love that. Like, believe me, when I was signed to Interscope, all my songs on that album were like sad and depressing. And then I wrote this one song that was like more of like a happier song. And all the ad agencies kept calling me, do you have more songs like that? Can you write more stuff like that? What do you have like that? And I got a lot of like nasty looks from artists that knew me in LA, like, oh, that's so dumb. Like, she writes happy songs. That's so stupid. Those are such, and I was like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I actually felt bad about playing out these songs and then I was like, no, I actually think that the reason I write these songs is that I really truly have a part of me that wants to encourage. I'm an encourager. And if it actually wasn't for those songs, I don't think I'd be doing this podcast. I don't think I'd be leading my life the way I am now, because I think it actually freed me up that I didn't want to be cool. There was a part of me that liked to write things that people wanted to sing along with and shine a light on some parts of our days that are hard. So it leads you sometimes. And eating is great. And being able to buy a house with money you make from art is pretty awesome. And I think everyone deserves that. And I don't know if it's always the most existentially like aligned artistic vision. I don't even know what that means, because I think our artistic vision should really be more about other people. And I think the more we make things that other people love, I think that's the artistic vision, personally. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like the people I know who are successful really find that sweet spot in serving other people's visions more than their own. Maybe I'm wrong. So let's see. I'm just reading through your comments. All right, awesome. Cool. Yeah, well, that's what's coming up next. We're going to start to be doing a lot more listening sessions now. We wanted to give you guys a couple months to just like get in, start to get clear, start to listen, because John made a really good point. And he's so smart, and he was in my very first program ever. And then he just grew so much, and he went on to just do such great work. And he said, you know, Kath, I feel like sometimes people come into these programs and they just start writing right away, and they don't really have a good idea first of like what really to do. So he's like, and then they get like a little ahead of themselves with some habits that maybe are not going to work. And then we kind of have to like back them out of that. So he's like, before we give them assignments, could we just spend a couple months like just really talking about what this is and listening, learning to listen to what we really want and where we're trying to go. And I thought that was really smart feedback. So I listened to him. But we are going to now start having you guys turning in a lot of your work and listening and giving you feedback. Beautiful. I love what you're saying. I think in the past I've been too sensitive, but feel differently now. I want to know how to make my music better. Look, it's really hard. You know, it's hard to put ourselves out there. We're being so vulnerable. It takes so much courage. Most people, they don't even have the courage to do this at all. They tell themselves, oh, I'm not even interested in anything creative. I'm just going to sit over here and play it small and sit at this desk job because I don't have the courage to put my work out there and get feedback. It feels too scary. I guess what you can remember is like, you're so much bigger than this one song. Like, think about an ocean with like lots of sand. Like, that one song is a grain of sand on this big ocean floor. Like, you're more than the song. You're all the roles you play. Like, each one of us plays a million roles. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm a teacher, I'm a podcaster. And I'm really not any of those things. I'm so much bigger than each one of those things, right? So a song I write, which is one part of me, okay, so someone doesn't like it, or maybe it's not the right song, or maybe there's more in me. I always felt like if people didn't like this thing I had, I was so attached to it, I was so precious about it. I started realizing they just come out of you like water. Like, once you get in the zone, you could like write so quickly. I realized like you just start to write more. There's so many new stories to tell. There's so much more to share. It's okay if you're on your way there. Right? We talked about that. I use that analogy all the time. You've heard me say it, that Ed Sheeran analogy. It's the most perfect analogy ever. And Brian Januski, who I was talking about, he said that his pottery teacher told him the same thing. His pottery teacher said, you have to work through all the mediocre pottery first, right? And Ed Sheeran said, you're going to turn on that faucet. You go in that, you know that story. You go into your cabin in the woods. You haven't been there in 6 months. You turn on the faucet and the water comes out brown, sludgy water, and you wait, and it starts to get clearer and clearer. And Ed Sheeran, who's such an incredibly prolific songwriter, he said, my first like 50 songs, I had to like play through that brown, sludgy water until I could get to the stuff that's better. And I've seen so many people, myself too, you guys, like, I know that my voice vocally, like as a singer, could be so much better. I don't commit long enough, right? Like I'll take lessons for a little bit, then I'll stop. And you know that vocals, by the way, it's all breathing. Everyone knows that, right? Like it's amazing how it's all the breath. And I'm not really so good at breathing, which is, by the way, that's all psychological shit, by the way. Do you know that? Like if you don't really drop in and let yourself breathe, you're not like, it takes vulnerability. There's a reason that we don't really breathe. They say that we're all stressed out. They say nobody actually is breathing in America. Isn't that crazy? Like we're supposed to breathe just the way that you're supposed to come to a complete stop, right? Nobody actually takes a full breath because we've learned how to like be disconnected from our feelings, so we don't really breathe. So every time I have a really good voice lesson, I cry my eyes out. I don't even know why I'm crying. It just, once you breathe, you feel all this stuff. So it's interesting how that's like it's like a survival skill to not really, really breathe. So I have a hard time really breathing sometimes. And so I get frustrated. So I'll give up on voice lessons, but I know that's just such a cop out because I could be such a better singer if I could really learn to breathe. And so, what I'm saying is I have it in my own self, you know, and then there are things that I'll look at, and the reason they succeeded is because I was willing to like wade through tons of mediocre moments. And for some reason I did that with my podcast, and I did that with songwriting. Because if I played you the first 40 songs I wrote, I'd be really embarrassed because they weren't good. They weren't okay. They were bad. They were awful. Like I look back and I'm like, oh, and like for some reason I just like kept writing them and sending them out and getting feedback. And at first it was blaring. It was like, don't send anything like this. Never. Don't even, it's embarrassing that you'd even send me this. Like I could like, I won't say who sent me that, but somebody at a movie studio was like, I'm embarrassed that you even think that I would consider music like this. And I was like, oh, I got it. Okay. It's really bad. But I just like waded through it. So I think that's where we can get our ego out of the way, right? It's like, just give yourself permission to like actually surrender to this Ed Sheeran process of the brown sludgy water. It's okay that it's mediocre at first. It's going to lead to so much that's so brilliant, but you got to like stick in it. And I've seen so many people who are not good, not naturally talented at certain things, who like put in the work, and like, I'm like, crap, that person is actually good at that thing now. Like they just like surrendered to like working on it. And by the way, I think I told you this, but you can ask John. It's really true. I could show you like our texts back and forth. People in this class are so talented. And Sam has been around for a while. Hi, Sam. Sam knows, like John and Sam have been around. Like this class is particularly talented. We were really impressed. In fact, when people were registering, the team kept being like, listen to this track that this person, because we would like look people up and we'd be like, there's a lot of good people in this class. And that's cool. That's really, really cool, because everything we're saying then is just preparing you. And meanwhile, it's really probably going to be a lot easier than we're making it. I'm just trying to get you in a position where you're in this for the long haul, because I don't want you to quit on yourself. I don't want you to play small. So I don't want you to take things personally, because it's not personal. And I want you to really know that you're in this to serve, so that you can make so much momentum with so many people and really look for how you can serve their vision and their artistic expression and help tell a story, right? So you can all write Waitress. Wouldn't that be so cool? How awesome is that, right? To help tell a story that's an incredible story. Isn't that what we all want to do with music, is help tell these stories that touch people's souls so deeply? Right? So it's like, if we can come together, and this also is the same thing with your collaborators. Like I said hi to Sam a second ago, and he knows this too. It's like, you know how many people you want to work with them because they're talented, but you just can't because they're not generous or they're not empathetic. And it's just such a bummer, because you're like, God, there could be so much more momentum in your life if you could just step away from your vision and the way you want to micromanage this and just give and surrender. Maybe you come into the session, you're so excited about an idea, but in the moment, for whatever reason, something new gets created between the two of you that's not your preconceived agenda, and it's more valuable. And that's what has to happen for that day. And then people want to work with someone who's there. It's just like a speech. Like, do you want to hear someone talk from a pre-recorded PowerPoint who's got their agenda? It's like, you don't even need to be there. They could just talk to the wall. They're not looking and responding, like, and looking in the whites of your eyes and talking to you. Like, I show up. Usually what I do every time I talk, even when I give a class, is like, I know what I want to say, and then everything just comes. I just make it up, like, in the moment, you know, like I'm just kind of feeding off of like your faces and some of the comments I'm reading, right? And in the moment, like, it's like a meditation. It's like, what do I feel they have to hear right now? That's so much more generous. Like, show up for each other just the same way you would for the people you're going to pitch to. So this is all about constructive feedback. Yes, great. I'm reading your, I love, you guys are so great. Oh, that's such a good question. God, that's a good question, filled with empathy. So John, Neil Martin just said, how do you approach people to get them to truly be critics instead of fans? Well, you said LOL, but here's a good way to do that. I've heard so many music supervisors who come to the panel, and you'll meet some of them if you come to Sync Keepers, who say, I don't really give feedback to artists because I don't think that they want it. But if ever someone asks me specifically and says, I really want to grow and I really respect you, if there's one thing at all that you think I should change, I'd be so grateful to hear it. They say they love when people say that, because then they will give feedback, because they don't want to be a dude. A, they don't want to be rude, right? And B, they don't have the time to just give everyone feedback, because for the most part, they don't think anyone will do anything with their feedback. So they don't spend the time to get in it with you and give you feedback. But if you proactively ask them, that's such a beautiful way to begin such a real relationship with someone and stand out. So when you are sending an email to a music supervisor, maybe you say, I read this article about you and I love that you said this. And by the way, that's a really good tool. Every time you go to email someone, have something specific. Either you heard them in this class and you can say something like that, or maybe you quickly Google them, see what articles you can find. Oh, Amanda Creek Thomas. Oh, she just wrote a book. Oh, she's in this article here, here, and there. Oh, what did she say? So that you have something specific, that, by the way. But then inside the email, maybe you say, I know you're so busy, so you don't have to respond, but I want to attach a song here with a link, obviously not an MP3 attachment, but I want to put a song here, a link to a song, and I actually want your feedback. If there was anything at all you think would make it better, I want to improve. I want to grow. I would so love, because I respect you so much, if you could think of anything I could do to make this song better, even one little thing, it would mean the world to me, because I'm such a person who wants to be in this game of self-development. I want to grow. I am telling you, that is not an email they get very often. And that invites them to then listen to the song, and you're just saying, tell me one thing to make it better. You're not saying, I think this song will work for you. You're not saying, what do you think of this? You know, which, by the way, is like such an open-ended thing. Or if you're like, hope you take a listen, bye, that's like not really a clear call to action. But if you ask for feedback and say, I respect you so much, you know what good music sounds like. And there's like such humility in that. If there's anything at all, that's like the calling of the guy at the internship and saying, what could I do to improve? Boy, is that a good way to go about your career. I've only had one person on my podcast who at the end of the show, while we were recording, and he said, no, don't cut this, keep this in the show. He said, how could I have made this interview better? And his name is Adam Grant, and he hosts the TED Talk podcast, and he's a professor at Wharton, and he wrote 3 New York Times bestselling books. One of them was called Originals. He's amazing. He's like so well regarded. Like, he hosts the TED Talk podcast. Like, he's the guy who's done the TED Talks and knows all those people. And he's a senior person at Wharton Business School. And he said, no, what can I do better? And I was so on the spot. I'm like, I don't know what to say to this guy. Oh my God. And then he's like, I respect you and think you're smart. So I'm going to be upset if you have nothing. And I was like, shoot, what am I going to say? And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to patronize you. I said, about 5 minutes ago, I asked you this question and you didn't answer it. I asked you this, and then you went off and talked about this. And he was like, you're so right. Ask it again. So I asked him again, and he was like, this is so good. I didn't answer the question, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, aren't you so glad you did that? And I was like, I think you're amazing. And he goes, this is what I wanted your listeners to hear. He goes, because this is what I've done at every single point of my career. Whoever I'm meeting with, whatever I'm doing, how can I improve it? What can I do better? Tell me, you tell me, you tell me, right? That's what makes him so brilliant. That's why he has one of the most watched TED Talks. That's why he's hanging out with, rubbing elbows with all these people. It's like, how can I improve, right? What can I do to make it better? That could literally be your entire strategy for your career. Boom. Thank you. I just gave you your whole career. There you go. I'm not joking. Who does that? Who's like, I want to grow and I respect you and your opinion about me. And then here's the, oh my God, imagine if you followed up and said, I took your advice and I did something about it. And here's the new version of the track. And I know you're busy, you don't have to listen, but if there's any one thing that you think could have made that better, tell me, because I want to serve. It's an amazing approach. Just saying. So that's how you make people your critics. And again, what does that do? Is it makes people feel like they're valuable and you care about their input rather than just trying to convince them to want something that you have first, right? It's all about getting their feedback. I love that. You guys are giving each other feedback. Yep, Yelp reviews. Yep. That's right. It's like, all right, there's a few people on Yelp who hate this restaurant. You're like, whatever. But if most people like it, okay. But I hope that if that restaurant sees 16 people saying the same thing, they should change the menu or whatever the service problem is or whatever, right? It's like you kind of just look for the majority of what you're hearing. Okay, awesome. All right. I'm just looking to see if anybody has any other like question about what we're talking about. Okay, well, let's talk about this. So as far as like practical now. So moving forward, I know that you guys are in these awesome teams, right? And I hope that you're continuing to hang together, but really you're going to have a couple different ways of getting feedback, right? There's going to be 3 tiers. One tier is you should be getting feedback from each other because you guys are smart and you're listening to the same songs that are out there. You're doing the same research. You guys can be helping each other. I think that you should set a rule where you can come up with it as a team. Like as a team, you should decide, should everybody in the team present a song every week? And then there's like a place where you guys like could create a Google Doc or somewhere you can give feedback. We actually created a feedback tool. We had a software engineer build it. I think it cost us like $1,500 to build it, but it's a way for you guys to give each other feedback. So you could use that. You could also just like, you could have your own listening session with your team and everybody plays a song and everybody sort of comments. So that's one tier, is like getting feedback from your peers. Another tier is you're going to get feedback from us. We're going to be doing listening sessions and they're going to come fast and furious as this program keeps going on. There's also going to be opportunities for you to pitch music, right? There's also, when music supervisors come, we try to play a few songs at the end. So there's some of that feedback. And then the third, the biggest one, right, is getting feedback from the person that you're actually serving, which is the thing that I did, which is like how I was disproportionately rewarded in my life, which is going into the belly of the beast and reaching out to those ad agencies and finding a way to get their feedback and to find out what they need. And oftentimes it's going to start with you just asking how you can anticipate their needs before you're shoving a song in. It's sort of like, what are you working on? What do you need? You can even ask them other kinds of questions about feedback, like what isn't working for you in the process of finding music, right? Like, what would make your life easier right now when you're looking for music? Is it a certain kind of content? Is it a certain kind of business arrangement? Do you need people who can clear things faster? Do you need people who are writing songs about this kind of a topic? Like, what do you need? Just asking those kinds of questions. And then it's easier to make the phone call or to send the email. I really want to work with you. I think you're amazing. What do you need more of? A specific question. And here's a song that I wrote. Is there anything about this I should change? Is this even, all I want to do is be working for you. I want to help tell the stories you're telling. I want to, any of that stuff. And then make it cute and personal and ask them a question about, like, you know, where they're going for Thanksgiving, and put some really cute meme at the bottom about how, like, you know you're enlightened if you can get through a family dinner or something like that. You know, like make it like human and funny and all of that stuff. But I want you to be getting that feedback in those 3 different tiers. And in order to do that, I want you to be writing music, right? So writing music so that you can get the feedback. And I want you to surrender and make it messy. Make it, write the bad song, write the crappy song so that you can just like not be so precious, because when we're so precious about it, it has to be such a great song, you won't even get it written. So one of our students from our other class, Cass Eager, from Australia, she has this like song game she plays where every week, I guess you have to turn in a song by Sunday. And if you miss a week, you're out. And then you don't get to stay in it and get the feedback from your peers. It's just like a game she's playing with a bunch of songs, which I thought was really kind of clever and interesting. And it keeps you accountable. So she's like, last minute, I'll write something just so I can stay in it, because I think that these people are really committed and have a really good work ethic and I want to be a part of it. So maybe you guys can do that with your accountability group, because a little bit of social pressure could be good for you guys, and you can help each other maybe actually get the work done. Okay, I'm just going to scroll through and see if there's any other questions that you guys have. Let's see. Let's see. Well, the first round of stuff we're going to do is like work tapes. So you don't even have to worry about producing these first round of songs. Oh my God. Kelsey said Team Infinity 8 has been turning in a song to each other every week for the last 3 to 4 weeks. That is so amazing. I will get you the feedback tool so that you guys can use it and see if you like it, because we did build it. So I will make sure that you guys have, yeah. Just the other day, I wonder if I could find it. One of the girls in our other class, who's like, that class is ending now. I wish I could find it right now. She posted, because here, see if I can find it. See if I can find it. It was just the other day. Oh man, am I going to be able to find this? I need to be better about searching Facebook groups for a particular post. I know I can do it. Oh. No, it was a different one. Shoot. That's annoying. Maybe I marked it as an announcement because it was so good. Anyway, I'll just tell you the gist of it. One of our songwriters from the other class, we were on a call, and I said, you got to email people. And she's like, oh, I don't know. It doesn't really work. I send emails and blah, blah, blah. And then we got off the call, and she posted that she sent an email, and she asked the person like a specific question that was more like, I wish I could just read you the post. I'm going to find it and post it in the group. How do I search in the, oh, hang on. Maybe I could do it this way. Yeah, here it is. I figured it out. Okay, so this was her post, which I'll just read it to you. She said, wow, on the call today, Cathy once again talked about email. She told me to stop sending the music right away to make the relationship first. So I contacted a film TV composer, and I told him about the odd LA weather, and I didn't send any music. He replied with a long answer to my random question and ended the email by telling me that his wife owns a licensing agency that is looking for female artists, and he gave me her direct contact info. So imagine if you could do that five emails a day, right? Because you just want to make friends, and you're not even in a place, a lot of people are like, I can't send emails until I have 20 great songs. It's like, wait, hold on. Before you have the songs, we can make the relationship first, right? You can make the relationship, and you can be sending in just to begin with, just to start. Like I said, you're just trying to pull the thread out of the sweater. You want to just start by making the relationship and getting the banter going. So when you do that, I was encouraging, and I've said this to you guys before, but I'm encouraging you to make a friend like you would first day of camp, or sitting next to someone on a plane or at a dinner party, and ask a specific fun question and make the email fun and personal and casual. Just like we talked about when Laura Belgrave was here, we talked about emails and how to get people to answer emails and making them fun. How many of you, since we had that, some of you had that bonus with Laura, depending on when you guys enrolled, but Laura's bonus was all about, like, we talked about emails and how to send great emails, because she has a course called the Copy Cure, all about being personable and fun. And she calls it she calls it, how does she say it? An email to a bestie. She says, like, that's what you should be thinking of, like you're writing an email to a best friend, and make it casual. So it really does pay off over time. And so what you want to do is, like, send these personable, cute emails, short and sweet, get in and out. Because eventually by the second or third email, you do want to send a song, and you do want to then hopefully get a little bit of feedback and get their answer key. But I would be starting out by just trying to make it through the noise and make relationships with folks by being positive and fun and sending something cute and short and sweet. Okay. All right. Okay. So I love that a lot of you are saying that you have already been writing music and turning it in. That's awesome. So good. I'm just looking through what else is going on. Yeah, an EFAB. Is it worthwhile to reach out to licensing agencies rather than music supervisors? Seems like they often mention that they get things in the music. I think you should be doing both. Like, everyone's going to tell you, we don't take music from artists, you should go through an agency. Everyone's going to tell you that because it's much easier for them to get one email from an agent that has all of this music already sort of aggregated than to, like, get it from 500 different writers. But at the end of the day, no one's going to be thinking about you as much as you are every day. And so I want you to be your own advocate. So I would try to do both. I would try to diversify it, because you don't want to be sitting at a licensing agency roster and, like, you're just collecting dust, right? Not that they're not going to pitch you, but you need to pitch yourself. And the people in our class who've really gotten placements, including myself, get them because I pitch myself, and because artists that I encourage you to pitch yourself, and really make this your mission and your vision, and make relationships. It's all about just making friends. So I'm telling you, cut through the noise, send an email that's fun and cute and has a picture at the bottom, and ask a fun question, and try to get off of music and off of work and off of the agenda, and just say something that's interesting, right? Like, are you dressing up for Halloween? I have 2 little kids, whatever. Let me ask you this. I saw on your Twitter profile that you love Marvel. So would you rather dress up as so-and-so or so-and-so? It's just fun. If they love Marvel, they wrote in their handle or they posted something like that. Try to catch on to something. Everyone's on social media. You can find out so much about people, and find one thing that you connect with that you think is interesting, and then find a funny way to sort of bring that into the email. Like, I heard you love, jazz music or whatever. Like, if you had to spend the evening with Miles Davis or such and so, like, where do you choose? And they'll say so-and-so all day, or whatever. Just make it fun. Like, send them an email that they want to answer because it's a pleasure. It's fun. And then they go, I like this person. This person is confident. They added some value to my day. They made it fun. They didn't try to pitch me and shove stuff down my throat. And then in the second email, you could say, oh, awesome. Have you seen this video clip of that? You should watch this YouTube link. You'll love it, or whatever. And then you can say, I write music and I would love to serve, your vision. I'd love to work with you. Like, how can I do that? Like, let me send you one song, and you don't have to answer. You don't have to reply. But if there's anything about this that you think I should change, is it the mix? Is it the vocal? Maybe you make it easy so they could just write back one word even. Just keep getting it rolling. Does that make sense? This really works, though. You should be doing this every single day, sending a few emails. Let's see. Patrice said, a year ago, I reached out to the supervisor. They gave me feedback and I dropped the ball getting back to them. I recently followed up with an email apologizing for having sent things without asking what was needed. And this was his response. Hi, Patrice. Wanted to let you know I received your kind follow-up email. I appreciate it, but certainly don't feel that you did anything wrong by pitching your stuff to me. I only wish every pitch I came with such cordial disclaimers. No worries. I'm glad the Sing class has been valuable for you. And thank you for your thoughts and the FH catalog. Incredible is incredible. So maybe we can connect some dots going forward. A thought from here. Do you hear anything you like from FH that you and your do you hear anything you like from FH that you and your class group might be interested in trying to target yourselves in terms of the sound and vibe? I'd be interested to know of a few FH cuts you especially like and might be able to record in that vein. Maybe that's a way to get you into our FH loop. What do you think? Okay, glad you're back in touch. Let's keep up. That's so beautiful. And that's the reason that person responded that way is because you were so clearly in it to be helpful. And then you said, I want to be helpful. And I'm sorry that I even sent things without asking you for what you needed. And just the awareness, the self-awareness of that, this person doesn't hear very often. So this person was overjoyed that you even commented that you cared more, about what they needed and shouldn't have even thought to send things first unless you knew that. It just shows like what a lack of empathy is in this world. Right, guys? You guys are really the best too. And before we sign off, I hear my kids like rattling. It's like Sunday morning. Like, you always say you're going to be on for an hour. They begged me today. Like, you always say it's an hour. It's never an hour. It's always so long. Anyway, but I can't because I love you guys. And I just want to say before I sign off, I saw what John Cimino posted and all those incredible comments. And I cried. You guys, that was so sweet. He was like, we should all call morning shows on Cathy's behalf. You don't have to do that. I mean, it's nice that I'm not mad at you that you did. That was so nice, but you don't have to do anything like that. But that was so sweet. It was so sweet that you guys were like, we should give back to her. I'm like, you give me so much. Like, John lost his mother a month ago, and all we did through that time was, I was like, how can I support you? I was doing whatever. It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter. But what kept coming up is he kept saying how grateful he was for this experience, how much he loves you guys, how he feels so touched to be, you don't know what you're giving. We turn on this class, any interaction I have with you doing this on a Sunday, reading your post, it is just, it's like, when Kramer would open the door and it was like that huge light in his room, remember with the fried chicken? Remember the fried chicken light from outside his window? You guys know what I'm talking about? It was like blaring. There was a Kenny Rogers Roasters across from his place, and there was like this huge light. That's how I feel. Like I turn anything I'm doing, it's like boom. It's like positive, kindness, goodness, talent, energy. You guys are working together, and it's awesome. So you're giving already so much. I just want to say thank you so much for all of that. And you don't understand. Like, you helped. He wasn't prepared. Like, he wasn't in a position where like he thought his mom was gonna die. It was very sudden. Like, to be like, just know that, to be able to like have given someone goodness and meaning through something that's so hard it's so unique. It's so rare in this world that a person loves what they're doing so much because the people involved are just so awesome. So you really are. How many of you are coming to the live event? Just put your hand up. Yes, it's going to be so cool. It's going to be fire. So many cool people are going to be there. And I will tell you, at the very last event we did it a little differently, where I was like, shoot, screw it. Like, I feel like I've gotten a little bit more, confident about things since my podcast. So what we did at the last event is, at the end of the panel, I turned around and I was like, you guys willing to talk to these, artists? And they were like, yeah. And so they stood there at the end of everyone. I was like, this is so awesome. And people talked and connected. And a lot of times from the stage, they gave their emails out. It was like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're not coming there just so you can smell their cologne from 30 feet away. It's like, you want to make a relationship with them. And so it'll be great. We'll be doing a lot of that. And what's cool is that the class has been so filled with people of integrity that they've grown to, I think, trust and want to reach out to you guys and have this relationship. So keep it up. You're actually, the rising tide lifts all the ships. Reach out to every person. One way you can go is like, reach out to anyone you've seen who's spoken at a Catch the Moon St. Keepers event, or anyone who's spoken in our class, and be like, I'm a part of this, right? Associate yourself. And you could go back and there's archives of videos of them speaking. I loved what you said. And you know, I love working with Cathy Heller, and she's, you know, just associate yourself with the fact that maybe you're already on the inside. Do you know what I'm saying? And then like be sweet and funny and ask a cool question, and make friends with them. They're cool. Like Eric Calver, he's a drummer, you guys. So like on his social media, he's always posting his own drumming, and he's a music supervisor at a trailer house. You'll find stuff about these folks, and like maybe you ask them to share their music with you. Like, you know, like have fun with it. But definitely get in on there. That's awesome. I love all of this. Yes, I will definitely get on that feedback tool, because we paid to build it. So let me just tell them right now. Hey guys, I am finishing up the session with the class, and we were just talking about the feedback tool that we built last spring. Can we make that available to the class? And maybe John, you can show them how to use it, and then they can start using that as well, because it's something we paid to build. Okay, cool. That's our Voxer. That's our Catch the Moon Voxer team chat. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys go. This was awesome. So what I would love you to do, which would be super fun and helpful to me, and I think helpful for all of you, and especially for people who are not on here live, go into the Facebook group, and whatever you felt like were your like 3 key takeaways of today, I'd love to see what those are, because A, it helps you to write them down. B, it helps me to see what you actually like got from this, and it helps each other. It will sort of like keep reinforcing it. Also, I really want to have you now, before it gets to the point where you have 8 songs that are burning a hole in your hands because you've got to get them out. Before you have that, because it's coming, I'd love you to start making these inroads and thinking about building these relationships. And remember how we started the class with all those qualities that you have inside of you, and you know you can offer that already. And remember what Brian Grazer said, everyone wants to feel important. That's all everyone wants. That's actually the greatest gift you give anyone. So give that to people. Send them emails with that kind of energy, where you care about their time, and you're making it fun, and you're making it personable before you send the song. So better to start doing that now. Wouldn't it be cool if you started doing that now, and then in a few months, when you have this like group of songs you're so excited about, you have a few people, 3 or 4, and by the way, 3 or 4 people can give you an entire career, right? If you had one music supervisor and ad agency who gave you a spot gave you the opportunity for a spot once a year in an ad, you can make 70 grand from that one person, right? So you only need a few friends, but it's a business of making friends. And the friends comes from seeking the feedback and having the courage and knowing how to reframe the feedback. And the rejection is really just an answer key. And that was what today's talk was about. So I hope that that gives you resilience and courage and reminds you to serve, because that's what we're here to do, right? Awesome. Okay, you guys are the best. Have an amazing week. I'll be looking for your comments, and I'll be looking for your work tapes as they come in, and we'll be listening behind the scenes, and you'll be getting some feedback. All right? All right. Have a good one. Bye, guys.